to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light. Yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to be joined by Mikey Mckinson via Zoom. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Big news in boxing. Been about 24 hours since we found out about the failed test in regards to Conor Benn ahead of this weekend's fight. Going to start off by saying, as much as we're boxing fans and you're a professional boxer yourself, it's a very hard thing to keep up with at times. So we're just going to roll with facts and what we know. Just kind of your initial reaction, Mikey, when the news broke yesterday.
There was that question all in the build-up to this fight. Do we think it's actually going to happen? Right? That was the biggest question in the build-up of the whole fight, and a lot of people didn't believe it would actually end up happening. And so it wasn't so much a shock. It wasn't, but like there's a lot of people's weekends ruined or could be ruined, and stuff like that. I don't know at the moment, is it still off?
Well, I think we should timestamp this. I think we should timestamp it. It's nearly 11 o'clock on the Thursday of the fight week. We know the press conferences have been pushed back. That's the thing with doing interviews like this. There is so much changing every half an hour. But yeah, as you were saying, just kind of, we had that whole thing of will it happen, will it not? And then kind of the biggest surprise in terms of reasoning that it might not happen.
Yeah, and it is mad, isn't it? It's mad. That was the biggest question in the build-up, and there was a lot. I thought I didn't so much believe that it wouldn't happen. There's too much money involved. There's too much involved in the fight. But there's a lot of people that I spoke to that really did believe that on Saturday night these two wouldn't be in the ring together. Obviously at the moment it's all very confusing for me. I've been trying to educate myself in the last 24 hours since you said you wanted to have a chat with me and stuff like that. Failing drugs tests is a new thing to me. I'm a clean athlete and stuff like that, so I have to get facts right. I don't really want to jump in with wrong facts and stuff like that. So yeah, do I believe in all of this? Like you say, innocent until proven guilty, and that the only way that is with a B sample, right? The fight shouldn't happen until they have the B sample, so it should be postponed in my eyes, because imagine there was a cross contamination and stuff, because we all know he's passed UCAD and failed VADA, but VADA's a lot more intense, and there's a lot more you can fail on in VADA. UCAD's a bit more lenient, I think. So say that he is innocent till proven guilty and he is clean and it is a cross-contamination or something. He goes out there and beats Eubank. The whole of the public now will be against him and say it's because he's juicing. It's because he's taking stuff. His win will... he won't get a lot from his win because the whole of the country will be against him, I believe. I've been trying to educate myself and stuff like this because I don't really know a lot. But this hormone or drug, whatever that's been found, traces that's been found, is actually, I do believe, because I've been listening to a lot in the last 24 hours, is actually a drug that people after a testosterone cycle, and they come off a testosterone cycle, they take this to flush the system and also keep the testosterone in. So if that is the case, then he's a drugs cheat, isn't he? And if it's not him, it's the doctor that he's brought in and that hasn't done a good enough job. Now, it's no secret. A lot of people talk about it. There's a lot of people that are getting away with stuff at the top level and stuff like that. There are a lot of people believe that, so we should, the world should really knuckle down on drugs testing, more of it, because there's a lot of people that are getting away with it. I'm not saying Conor is guilty, because until a B sample, you can't really jump and say, oh, he's a drugs cheat. And I know there's a lot of people really hesitant in saying their opinion on it, because you don't know until there's a B sample, do you? So, but I do personally believe that the fight shouldn't go ahead, and it should be postponed until he is proven a clean athlete, with both samples and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, there's kind of that period now where we're still waiting to see whether it happens or not. Was you kind of surprised? Obviously, look, when it was timelined by Eddie in the interviews he's done, he said the teams were notified at the same time. And then that's kind of when we waited for responses from Eddie, Calla, Conor, and Chris. Were you kind of surprised that the initial speed that everyone still went, is still on? This came out and it was like barely 45 minutes, and it was like the fight's still on. Was you surprised at the speed of it all, kind of?
I think Conor's interview that he did yesterday, in his head, the fight's still on. You got to feel for Chris Eubank, because this is a guy that's making weight. He's come down to weight, but now, like, I believe power's in his hands. Like, if he wants to fight at 160, like if it does go ahead, fight at 160. After everything he's had to go through this week, like, I personally believe that. I know they're contracted and stuff like that, but I think he has a little bit more power now after everything, But it's just one of them, Oscar. I guess the whole of boxing, the whole of the boxing casuals, boxing supporters, people involved in boxing, has to just play that waiting game and see. But I wouldn't like to the fight to go ahead until Conor is past the B sample, or what people are saying, and I believe they can't do that in time for Saturday, can they? If he is innocent and he goes out and beats Eubank, then there's a lot of people that are going to take his win away from him and say he's a cheat, he's this, he's that, and there's that big excuse. Now, if I was in Ben's shoes and I was completely innocent, and the majority of the public are against you right now, then I would want to wait until I've proven to everybody that I'm a clean athlete, and then the win will be more fair. This is somebody. There is speculation regardless of this fight and that, because this is somebody that's gone from struggling with journeyman, so to speak, or struggling. Like, he's the most improved fighter in the UK, or one of the most improved fighters in the UK, drastically in a short time period, I believe. So there's that speculation there anyway. He's gone from struggling with journeyman 1 year to knocking out former world champions like 2 years later and stuff like that. So I would definitely go into a fight with a point to prove, and I would wait and stuff like that. I believe it shouldn't happen until he's a certified clean athlete. Like, he may be. Like, nobody knows yet. He may be, but there's a lot of people that will be judging on this now, especially now.
Yeah, obviously, you've just said that you feel the fight shouldn't go ahead. This is kind of theoretic, this question, but put yourself, say, in Eubank's shoes, right? And well, it's different, I suppose, because if you were to fight Conor, you would be fighting at welterweight 147. So it would be what we would call a more evenly matched fight than Eubank being quite a large favourite because of the size. In Eubank's shoes, would you fight in this situation? Because people feel he's got the edge anyway with the weight. So am I making sense by saying, would you fight because he already feels he's got an edge? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're in Eubank's shoes, do you fight Saturday night?
I wouldn't until I know for sure, especially after all this. You know, this is a guy that's a 147 fighter that's coming up, got £10 in a confident mindset. You know, um, so yeah, like it's more or less seems like, how do they put on £10? Like, obviously you've got the balance with you ain't coming down in weight. How do you put on £10 going in there still thinking like, oh, I won't come out there and say he's guilty or he's not guilty, because we're still very fresh and nothing's been proven. But he's failed a drugs test. Regardless, he's failed a drugs test from VADA, and until that's sorted, then the fight shouldn't happen. And like, you feel for you, mate. There should be in big fights like this, lots of speculation from the beginning when the fight got made. There should have been replacement opponents, plan Bs, for something like this. Like, Eubank should still fight if it's somebody else. Like, he's put a lot into this camp, a lot of money, and you know, he deserves the fight, but under the right way. Like, you know, I know there's a lot of money involved in the fight, a lot of legacy, and they're trying their very best, but you know, Conor Benn's failed a test from VADA, regardless if they think it's contaminated or if it's a wrong test or whatever. He's failed.
You mentioned the word legacy. The legacy this was going to leave was kind of like, it's not the trilogy, but it is the trilogy. Does it taint the legacy in a touch if the fight goes ahead, would you say?
There's a lot
like
more...
the Ben Eubank legacy as a whole. I mean, the two fights standalone are iconic, but does it taint the Eubank Ben legacy, would you say?
It's more controversial. You know, like the last fight they had was controversial and stuff like that. People believe, and you know, you want it as fair as possible. I think it should be postponed, in my opinion, because the fight's still a massive fight. Just get things right before going into the fight, and you know, like, make sure they're both clean athletes. They're both passed drugs tests. They're both, you know what I mean, to make it as fair as possible. And the fight should still happen down the line if things get sorted. But I don't think it should happen this weekend. Conor's adamant that he is a clean athlete and he's not done anything wrong, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, you are innocent till proven guilty. So it's just a waiting game. Like, he needs this, like, he needs to do a B sample, and, you know, people are quick to change the subject, and when getting asked a question, they're quick to change the subject or just, you know, and stuff like that. So, but, you know, to shut everyone up, do things the right way.
Does the fight play out, be it them fighting on Saturday or them fighting in a month's time, 2 months' time? Does the fight play out the same? Because we knew it'd be a week of emotions and drama, and we expected the press conference today for there to be a lot said. But now we've had this different, unexpected roller coaster. Does the fight play out the same, or is there more emotion? And do we get, regardless of whether it should go ahead or not, do we get a better fight? I don't know.
Not a clue. Like, I'm so confused in all of this right now. Like, going into the fight, I said, with the weight, like, I think we'd done something last week, didn't we? And I said, with the weight, Eubank coming down to an unnatural weight, being 33 years old, and I'm not sure if there's a rehydration. I thought there was a rehydration thing, but I was listening on Twitter, someone's Twitter just then, and it's not as clear if there's a rehydration thing as what I thought. But I thought that all played in Conor's hands, like in general, and like, it balanced it out a lot more for me, like, regardless of anything else, because we didn't know anything else. But now, after all this, I can't even think of how I think the fight would go. You know, I really can't think of how the fight would go. You know, like I said, innocent till proven guilty, and like, but then people shouldn't fight in case they are guilty, because imagine if there's fatalities and things like that. So I am against the fight happening this weekend, but you know, I'm a boxing fan, and like I'd love to see the fight happen like everybody else. I know like you've got me on here because I'm a welterweight and I'm like a rival or whatever, but I speak of this not so much as a rival, more as a boxing fan, sitting back like the rest of the country, because I am a huge boxing fan, you know. Like, do I think Conor will come back down a welterweight after? Not necessarily. So why would I be looking at a rival? So, no, I think they should wait until everything's more concrete in being guilty or being not guilty. If they're guilty, it should be a ban. It should be others get banned, you know. If it's not guilty, then everybody's in a more clearer situation of it, and they've waited until things are concrete and things are right for it to happen. It should be like that.
Well, look, let's see what happens from here on in. As I said, it's the Wednesday of fight week, and we still don't know if we're going to see a fight Saturday. So just mad all around. Mikey, thanks for giving me some of your time. Appreciate it. I'm sure next time we'll talk about what's next for you and things like that. But obviously, in this moment, there's only one thing everyone's talking about, and it's the only thing.
Yeah, of course. No worries, Oscar. If I'm in camp, I wouldn't do this. But I'm not in camp and I'm not relevant right now. So,
well, how much are you weighing? You said about standing opponents. How much are you weighing? 157. Let's talk.
I am probably inside the super middleweight limit right now.
Right.
Yeah, but like I had a little bit of time out after that last fight because of a few injuries, and I had to be healthy again to regroup and go again. But I believe I am now, so hopefully I'll get out before Christmas and back to winning ways. But I wouldn't say I would be in good enough condition to be a stand-in for this weekend at all.
I'm going to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something. Completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.